Hello and welcome back to the Hip and Cool podcast. It's been a very long time. It's been a very long time because guess what? I got a job. Whoopee, praise, whatever higher power you want to praise to. I will say having a job has taken away from my goofy, funny, silly me time. I won't lie. Now that it's the weekend, after 6 months probably of not recording, I thought, you know what? I've been going through a lot of like mental kind of transformation. Let me make a podcast episode. Like, why the hell not? So this episode is going to be about finding the courage to give a damn about yourself. I'll be looking down as per usual. You know the ropes. If you're not new here, I'll be looking down at my little notes here. This episode is getting the courage to give a damn about yourself and learning how to care about yourself without buying anything. Self-care has been like kind of wrapped into this like really pretty, what's it called, wrapping paper of like, oh my god, so in order to care about yourself, you gotta make sure you have La Roche-Posay, and you gotta make sure you have the best, like, what's it called, face mask, blah 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 blah. No, we're not doing that. That can definitely be a way or whatever, but that's just feeding into capitalism, and that's not what we're doing right now. That's not what I'm talking about today at all. In order to like truly give a damn about yourself, there is no purchase necessary. Everything is gonna come from the inner, okay? In order to kind of give context to where I was starting, I'm gonna start talking about toxic shame. Learning about toxic shame for me is what clicked for me. It kind of helped me understand why the commonly like done activities that people would usually put under the umbrella of caring about yourself and self-care didn't work for me. Or they would work temporarily, but they didn't have lasting effect. So I'm putting on a face mask, but at the end of the day, I'm still crying about blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? So what's going on there? I am in a book club currently with 3 other friends, and we're reading a book called Radical Intimacy by Sophie Rosa. That book is wonderful. I'm also not done yet. We haven't finished because we've gotten busy here and there. But if you are looking for like kind of a way to look at intimacy between not only just one-on-one individuals, like loving like partnerships, but also just the way that intimacy is kind of like structured under capitalism, and caring about yourself, caring about your partners, caring about the world in large, as opposed to just thinking of intimacy as this thing that happens between 2 people in the dark. That's not what it is solely. It's definitely a facet, but I hate when people just view love as this one-on-one thing. Like, bro, like, you're supposed to love everything, not just one guy, you know what I mean, or whatever. Anyway, so limerence came up when we were having one of our weekly meetings, and my friend Kayla was like, yo, Sana, what you're talking to me about, what you're explaining to me sounds like this thing called limerence. And I'm like, what's limerence? And she's kind of like, it's kind of like when you have this like fantasy and like expectation about people to act the way you believe they should. And also the expectation that you think they should know, and when they don't act in accordance within the parameters of your fantasy, you get upset or disappointed, etc. And she tells me she learned this elsewhere, but got kind of an in-depth explanation about it from Heidi Priebe. So I was like, okay, let me look this video up. Let me look up this Heidi Priebe lady. Heidi Priebe is amazing. I love her. She is the way that she kind of talks about all these different topics about like kind of loving yourself, not necessarily loving yourself, but like getting rid of all these like toxic kind of I don't like the word toxic, just to be honest, but getting rid of these cycles rather of dysregulation between one-on-one interactions with people, but also just in yourself, and like kind of looking inward instead of being like, oh, the world hates me, this happened, this happened, this happened, and being like, no, wait, let me go inward and really see what is coming from the inner that I'm projecting outward, that's like also just then projecting back onto me, etc., and it just becomes a cycle. In her video about limerence, Heidi Priebe talks about toxic shame as the idea that there is this inherent badness within us, or just a person who has toxic shame believes that there's a toxic like badness within them, and it causes a person to associate their worth with external things such as like money, how many friends they have, etc., and grades, likes, partnerships, number of friends, etc., instead of understanding that at their core they're good, like they're fine, they have value outside of these things. And watching her limerence video made me want to watch her toxic shame and what it is and how to heal from a video. So these are both kind of like what I'm going to say is a combination of both of these videos. I was taking notes while she was talking, and I was just like, whoa, like this is kind of okay, all right, shush. Limerence, let me describe it, let me define it for you. It's kind of a way of denying the present moment and fantasizing about a reality where our needs are met times 3,000, right? Let's say you have a friend that you hang out with every single day and you feel so dissatisfied with the friendship. And when you get home, all you do is like think about how much better your life would be if they acted this way, if they acted that way, blah, 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 blah. And like you just kind of imagine a world where all your needs are met. You're like, oh my God, I have so many friends where they all treat me like this, they all treat me like that. And like, they look at the inside of my heart and they accept me for who I am. And I don't feel like I have to put up a front around them, blah, 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 blah. And that's kind of the best part of the partnership for a limerent person. For a limerent person, the best part of being around somebody is when you've left them. When you go home and you fantasize. When she said that, I was like, oh. Because then I realized the friends who I'm not limerent around versus like the instances that I am limerent, whether it's around like romantic situations or friendships or whatever. When I am around people who are actually reflecting my like real authentic self back to me, when I'm around those people, the best times are when I'm with them. I don't go home and like imagine a world where I'm being treated better by one of my best friends, because my best friend is already treating me well. So when I realized that, I was like, wait a second. So it's not like impossible for me to detach from this feeling. Like I have friends, I have loved ones, my family members who actually treat me in a way that is reflective of my actual they reflect myself back to me accurately. You know what I mean? Or most accurately, because like obviously only I can do that. And she wanted to emphasize in there that it's not a moral failing. Like being limerent was a defense mechanism that was once regulatory when we were kids, or when in the moment when it was created, because you needed it to kind of self-regulate in that moment, right? But then as time goes on and you're kind of divorced from that moment or that instance that the thing was created, you're kind of just forcing yourself to relive that over and over and over and over. And it's so unfortunate, because then you start to kind of take a moment from your past and make it define how you engage in your future relationships. It's not great. It's awful, because then it's like you're judging other people based on one other person's mistake or multiple people's mistakes. It's like you're not giving everyone a fresh shot at loving you. She also goes on to say that people with toxic shame just want someone to look at all the stuff inside them and say that it's okay. That's kind of like what I mentioned earlier. I realized that was true in me, because for me, no matter how many face masks, no matter how many times I did my nails, no matter how many times I took a walk or did this, did that, did the third, I was like, what's in it for me? Like, I wasn't really reaping any of the benefits from these things because I was still stuck in that kind of loop of like, well, this isn't really doing anything. This isn't really doing anything. This isn't really doing anything. And I was having trouble relating it to my actual experience. Like the self-love, like habits that people say to do. I was like, well, how is this actually helping me? What am I supposed to be doing? What am I doing wrong? I'm not doing it right. You know what I mean? It was just this kind of activity that I felt like I needed to do properly. Even with meditation, I'm still working on that. My friend Kayla was like, so nah, like, have you tried meditating? It seems like you have like a lot of thoughts or whatever. And I was like, I've tried it. I just don't do it right, blah, 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 blah. And I was just like, so convinced that I'm just doing it poorly. There's just no way that I could ever like get this thing down pat. Like, even with practice, I'm still gonna be doing it wrong. And it's just this kind of like hard on yourself kind of thing. It's just not fun. And that's what she says, sign 3, that you're limerent. She said, you feel whole, lovable, complete in your fantasies in a way that you don't feel in your everyday life. When I'm like in situations where I feel super, super aligned, right? I feel super aligned with who I am. I feel super centered. I actually am doing the work to care about myself. And then I end up going, to a group hangout or hanging out with friends, etc. And then I start talking to them and I realize like, oh, like I was literally 100% fine before I entered this conversation. And all of a sudden I'm so dreadful. I feel so sad. I feel so dysregulated. And I realize it's because I'm trying to like co-regulate, which is like have a genuine connection with somebody, like friendship wise. I'm trying to co-regulate, but there's just this like blockage, and it's difficult for me to find connection in there. I noticed the reflection of the times where I would go from periods of super, super, super content to like so sad. I noticed that I was like, it's because I'm like trying for people to understand me to my core. That will come later. You can't just skip 8 years of friendship. You can't just like also expect to that you can explain yourself to death. Trying to convince people that you're not the person that they deem you are. Like, if someone would come up to me and be like, oh, Sana, I think you're such a calm person. Like, you like really calm me down. Like, I've gotten that a few times. And I would like make it my mission to explain to people. I'd be like, no, you don't understand. Like, I am overthinker. I'm an overthinker. I have anxiety. Like, I am not calm. I am really awful. I'm just like not who you think I am. Like, stop saying I calm you down because I'm not that bitch. Like, I don't calm people down. I actually like make my life a living hell. So I need you to know that I'm not as calm as I seem. So if I look like I'm quiet, I'm actually overthinking. Like, I just like would make this whole like speech to them. Oh, so now like you calm me down. Then just allow that to be their experience of you. Why do you have to like change that? I'll tell you, there was this like little fly, this pest inside of my brain that was like, bitch, you better let these people know you are the most unhinged. Like, what? You think I'm playing? Like, that's the funny thing. Like, I'm also explaining myself right now too, ironically. But this is a podcast. This is like a forum for that. I feel like there are times and places for these conversations. The title of the conversation is in the video title, etc. So you know what you got yourself into. I don't need to do this all the time. That's what I'm saying. Like, not every conversation needs to be like a podcast situation where I'm like, okay, sit down, buckle up. Let me tell you how crazy I really am. Like, are you kidding me? Like, not everybody needs to be privy to that also. I feel like not everyone also needs to know what's going on. Like, you know what I mean? Like, privacy is important. that's just another thing. Like, you don't have to like explain everything. Your lore, right? People will find out your lore for themselves. Do you really, if it's, you know, if they stick around that long, you don't gotta explain your lore to everybody. God damn it! Like, I feel like this is the analogy I use when I was talking to my friend. I was like, sometimes I explain my lore to people as if my friend and I are going to the movie theater to see a sequel for a movie they haven't seen the first of. Like, if we're gonna go see like Avengers 2 and the person hasn't seen Avengers 1, I'm like trying to catch them up on all the lore from before they met me up till now, so that when they start watching the second sequel of my movie, the second movie of my life, they understand. I'm like, okay, when I, do this, when I say this, when I, act this way, you're not like surprised, or you don't leave me, I guess. I don't know, like, what's all this for? I literally sit down and I'm like, what am I doing all this for? Like, what's all this like extra rigmarole like doing? What is it? What's the purpose of it? Realizing that there is none. There's genuinely no purpose to it, and it's only holding me back from like making actual friends and like actually co-regulating. It's not doing anything, babe. It's really not. It's only hindering me. Why should I be limmering about people and wait for them to validate me when I already have people who validate me and love me, but B, I shouldn't have to live off of people's validation. I shouldn't be like, oh, well, you know what, I'm only gonna like open this door if this person says shit. Like, girl, get real. I really had to get real. That was really what I feel like November to now has been, just me getting real. I'm like, girl, I'm noticing these patterns, and we need to like, we need to cut them, because it's preventing me from actually co-regulating. And I realized, I was like, it's a shame, because in those moments where I'm sitting there trying to explain how awful I am to people, I'm missing out on actual like friendship time, learning about how their day is, learning about what they're up to, having a good time, living in the moment. You know what I mean? Instead, I'm sitting there like, I can't believe, woe is me, like I'm just this awful person, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, babe, in general, most people just are a little bit too hard on themselves. I'm not a bad person. I don't like wish ill will on people. I try my best every day, and I think that's enough. So I've got to realize that maybe it's not that there's something wrong with me and that I need to catch people up on my lore. And the truth of the matter is that I'm allowed to just exist and be here. And yeah, that's another reason why I also haven't been recording. I've just been like, no, like, what do I have to offer? Blah, 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 blah. That was also why I didn't start the podcast earlier too. So the fact that I even started the podcast, I was like, wow, whoa, like things are changing, things are new, things are different. So I think it's just a testament to how much better I have been getting to myself. And yeah, like I'm getting on these like little points I wanted to mention. It's not about when you love yourself in the good moments, like when you're winning. Because I was talking to my friend about this too. I was like, it was a lot easier to stay present when things were good, when I was in a space where I felt super free, when I had money, when I had like all these different things that made me feel like life was good, right? So in my head, I was like rejecting the present moment because I was just so unhappy with how I was living comparatively to when I was really happy, or just like in a like, better place, whatever. I just graduated, blah, blah, blah. Like, I was just having a good time in college and like coming back. And I spoke about this in a previous video where like post-grad anxiety and stuff like that. I was living it up in college. Like, when you talk about living it up, I was living it up. So having to like, kind of be divorced from that, coming back home, and then also not having had a job, blah, 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 all these different things that I felt like was just like deteriorating me as a person. I was just like, or my value as a person. I was like, oh, like my stock value went down and now I can't feel present. Like, what's the point of being present? I don't want to be here. You know what I mean? Like, mentally, physically, whatever. I don't want to be in this spot right now. So why should I stay present? Why stay present when I can reject the present moment and like live in the past when like things were so much better? when they're fine now, at that time, they were fine at that time. I just was like being dramatic and limerent about like my past self, actually. But honestly, it's in those moments where you feel fucking weird and bad and gross and innerly weird. And like when you don't have a job, when you are single, or when you don't have as many friends, or you're not as connected to your friends as you used to be, or when you don't feel like you have enough money to do this and that, like when you feel like trapped, when you feel all these different things that you feel, that's when you're supposed to love yourself the most. That's when you really show yourself, oh, I've got my back, right? Because when you only love yourself, or you only love people, no, I'll get to that later. When you only love yourself when things are going great, that means your love for yourself is conditional. And then I have to relate it to like a friend. If you only like your friend, let's say you have a rich friend or something like that, and you only like your friend when she's got enough money to fly you guys out to Cabo, but when she's maybe not, when she doesn't have enough one day and you want to go to Cabo and you're pissed at her, is your love for her only like based on when she can fly y'all out to Cabo? Like the Cabo times are nice, but it's also telling of the friendship when y'all can just chill at home and eat some like, cheese sticks and watch a movie together. I feel like that's telling too. It's like you are also friends with her when she can't fly you out to Cabo. Maybe when she lost her job. Oh yeah, maybe like let's not be friends anymore, because like I don't think that I can be friends with somebody who can't fly me to Cabo. Like where like you set that precedent so high that like I don't know, like I don't think that you and I can be friends outside of Cabo trips. Like that's weird. Like would you genuinely catch yourself saying that to somebody? If you genuinely think that yes you would say that to somebody, you need to really do some reflection onto yourself, because that's a little weird and strange, odd behavior. But yeah, I mean, Cabo trips are nice, but it's also just like, oh, you can't always expect life to be a Cabo trip, babe. Like sometimes you gotta sit home and be like, yeah, I don't got the money for Cabo this year, so we got to slum it at home, and that's fine too. I feel like making fun at home is nice too. I'm just still on this Cabo analogy anyway, but yeah, just I don't want my love for myself to be conditional. I don't want my love to be like, oh, like happiness, like when I've got the money, when I have an apartment, when I have like postponing caring about yourself to this moment when everything is just okay again. Like, oh well, like when I get a good grade on this paper, then I'll care about myself, then I'll like treat myself to this thing. I feel like that's different. That's rewarding yourself, right? But like I think in general, like, oh, I will not do this thing until I get good grades, or I am worthless if I don't have good grades. And then you get a good grade, you're like, oh my God, I'm so good, I love myself again, blah, 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 blah. Then you get a bad grade and you're like, oh, like you're just kind of like frozen in time. Like, oh, well, there's no use in like upkeeping my body. I don't care about it because it's not the body that got a good grade. You know what I mean? And this is coming from somebody, who has been there. I've been there, like denying myself love from myself and others, isolating myself because I didn't feel like I was in a place where I should be receiving love, because I wasn't living up to my expectations and I wasn't in a place where I felt like I deserved it. Like, oh no, and that's that toxic shame. That's what that toxic shame will do to you. Yeah, me when I toxic shame. Yeah. Like, are you kidding me right now? That's what I'm telling you right now. This is a genuine like cycle that's been like built up over time. Maybe it started with the grades, right? Maybe I just needed motivation to get my grades up and it just became dysregulated. So I've been there with that grades thing. I'm telling you right now, like I hate being the bitch who's like, oh, honors kid, whatever. But like, look, honors kid, high school, moving on to college, I was like, oh, college is more difficult. Okay, it's time to hate ourselves more into getting good grades. Like, what are we doing there? And then when I realized the grades were getting me, I wasn't getting those grades no more. The grades were getting me. I was like, okay, time to hang this up. It's not working anymore. That's really what you have to understand. Just like being an active participant in your life instead of just constantly hating your, like, oh my God, it's just not fun. Oh my God, this is what I'm telling you right now. It's just like, you need to love yourself even when you're not doing your best. When you get a 0 out of 100, you need to know you still love yourself. A 0, straight 0. That's how you know. Like, you can celebrate your wins and love yourself in your wins, but when you get a 0 out of 100 on an exam and you still want to eat, that's how you know you love yourself. Like, that's like, oh, look, I got my back regardless of the outcome. That is what I wanted. I don't want the face mask and the painting your nails type of self-care. I wanted the got ran over by a car. Life is still in me, so I love myself, type of situation. Let's move on to the next half, or the next portion of the episode, my New Year's resolutions, right? New Year's resolutions. Based on all this work that I've been doing, I have a few New Year's resolutions. I'm big on New Year's resolutions, not necessarily because I think that a new year you should always, but here's the thing. Treating anything like a new birth, why the hell not? I'm going to do it. I think everyone should try to like find moments to like care about themselves. And New Year's is just a new opportunity to care about myself. So why the hell wouldn't I do that? Like, why wouldn't I do that? So the big overarching like idea, I started this in December already. So I'm kind of just like writing it down and calling it a New Year's resolution, even though I've been doing it already. Standing on business. We standing on business all 2024. When it comes to me and the people I care about down, I'm standing on business. I don't care. Standing on business when it comes to me. Like, that's really what I think the whole overarching theme is. First thing, detachment. Detaching from the outcome of the situations that I'm in and detaching from how people view me or how I think they view me. Right? K-Not Bay on TikTok, I love her so much. She was like, I have so many things going on in my mind already. And my mind is racing. And so I like to be sure of things. Certain things like family, relationships, friendships, blah, blah, blah. So if I'm not sure about something, it's going to like take up time in my mind. And I don't have time for that. Get it out. Or let's talk about it. If the conversation, ends in a not great way, you just gotta like let it go. It's okay. Like, things are in your life for a reason or a season. Next, pouring into myself so that I can be of service to my community. By questioning my limerence, understanding my toxic shame, etc., I can let go of the things that are holding me back so that I can show up for other people in a way that is more holistic. I think all this is for that. I've been reading All About Love by Bell Hooks with my friend Maureen. This is a wonderful book. Okay? I also recommend, if you're going to be reading something, read it with another person. And also, like, take notes and stuff. I've been taking notes, underlining, and doing things like that because I feel like it helps me engage with the text more. And it makes it less of a, I'm just reading this. It's like, no. There's a conversation to be had with the book. So definitely recommend that. If you're reading, like, a book that is pretty dense, interacting with it, finding a friend to read it with, finding a group of people on the internet who have read it too, and interacting with them if you maybe don't have a friend who would want to read it. Or if you want me to talk about it, I'll talk about it too. Why the hell not? If you read this book and you want to talk about it, please, like, I will talk about this book. This is a wonderful book. So I've been reading this. She talks about being of service to your community in this book a lot. That's really what love is about. Kind of just loving yourself so that you can show up for other people properly, because we don't live in this earth by ourselves. Being an active participant in your life so you can be an active participant in other people's lives is all that matters, really. That's all that matters. Next, staying present. The best part of life is happening now. It's like right now. Like, it's not like, oh, well, no. Those are all like hopes, wishes, whatever, dreams, past, whatever. That was now in the past. That was a now then. In the future, that'll be now then too. But right now is what matters most. Then I've been reading The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And he goes crazy into it. The way he talks, I've been listening to the audiobook on Spotify. I don't know, I go into like a trance when I listen to it. It's a wonderful book. It's actually so good. I'm almost done with it. I only have a few chapters left. So good. I definitely recommend it to people who feel like they're not able to be present as well. And that's like one of my big things. Like, just staying present and stop trying to like reject the present moment by having fantasies or thinking about the past. Like, no, just accept the moment, even if it's like fucked up and weird a little bit. Like, it's, accept it and surrender to it. Next, not allowing this transformation to make me dull and stoic. I feel like I've been just kind of stoic recently. I'm a little bit cheery, happy now, but sometimes like I get so in my head about like, oh my God, I need to do this. Like, I'm not being this right now. I'm just being super limit right now, blah, blah, blah. And just being like so in my head and judgmental. I have to let go of that judgment. I'm still working on it. This is not a linear process. Growth is not linear. It definitely has its ups and downs. And I have to just be patient with myself. So I'm trying. I really am trying. Because when you're reading about all these different things and you're like, oh, wait, I have this toxic pattern. It's hard to know that your hero has fallen. You, right? You're like, oh my God, I viewed myself so X, Y, and Z. And like, I might be perpetuating like toxic cycles that are like preventing me from living a happy life. I can't believe this. And it's a lot to like process that. So what I've been trying to do is just be a little bit more patient with myself. Like, girl, you're learning a lot about yourself in a really short amount of time. Take a break, watch some TV, breathe, laugh with a friend, like go watch something funny, because that's what they say, like fiction really lets your soul like breathe, you know what I mean? And like art. And that's why I want to do this podcast again, because it helps me be artistic. All this like limerence and stuff like that, I'll just let you in a little bit on my brain. I realize I'm limerent because I have so much love to give all the time and I don't know where to put it. So part of me is like, well, you know what? Instead of putting it into these fantasies, why don't I just create something, do something? I know I don't really do art very much. I do doodle here and there in like a journal or here or there or whatever. But something that I know I'm like passionate about is editing. I love to edit. Why don't I like put all that love that I put in for my limerent objects and people? Why don't I just put that all into my work? When I actually try my hardest at work, too, like where I work, I feel super liberated. I'm like, whoa, like, oh my God, like I love this. And I just like feel like there's just so much more value in that, and being like, oh my God, I'm not where I want to be, blah, blah, blah. Like, no, give a damn about what you're doing. Work. That's also what she says in here too. Like when you're at a job and you're just making it the most dull experience ever, it's not good for you and it's not good for anyone around you. Be an active participant in your life. Make things fun. And that's what I did. I was like, you know what? This maybe isn't the best situation, but I'll make it fun. And like, I'm realizing that I'm getting more responsibility. People are trusting you more things. And I'm like really good at my job. I'm actually so good at my job. I'm good at everything I put my mind into. So why don't I try to put it into things I actually love? So I'm going to put it into editing and doing my podcast again, because those are things that deserve my attention. You know what I mean? Doing things with love. Once again, choose love always. Remember, I be saying that at the end of every episode because it's the truth. But now I'm really, really like feeling it in my body is really what's important. Oh yeah, continuing on the not letting this transformation make me dull and stoic. This is about creating joy, or rather finding it. You know, the joy is not something I have to like create, because I can create it, but it's there already. I just gotta find it. And I want to help me accept myself in all my glory. I'm not perfect. I'm gonna be weird sometimes. Sometimes I'm scared of the hoes. Like sometimes I be scared of the hoes. That's fine. I gotta be okay with like making people feel a little bit unsettled. You know, my gaze might be a little bit weird. You know, people might catch me looking at them or whatever. Like, I'm just a little bit kooky sometimes, and that's okay. Gotta accept yourself at your most kooky. It'll set you free. Yeah, just being okay with myself, because sometimes like that toxic shame could really get you. It's like, oh, like I'm not deserving of this. I'm not like, oh, like let's stop it there. I'm really just so blessed that I found these things when I did. I hope that like anyone like listening and in these cycles, I want you to know that you are okay as you are, with all the gunk and goo inside of you. Gunk and goo can mean good and bad stuff. All of it was created in a time when you needed it, but it may have just become dysregulated at a time. You just need that. You needed it at a time. You might not need it anymore. You can refurbish it. You can use it as a lesson. The past is a place of reference, not a place of residence. You don't need that all in your moment. You don't have to live by the confines of your past self. What is it? I wrote it on my bookmark because I love Andrew Burgess, man. That teacher was amazing. life is a process. We're not yet who we will become, and we don't have to be stuck with who we were yesterday. Like dead at, like genuinely, don't even like try to be stuck with who you were yesterday. If you liked who you were yesterday, you can bring it into today. But if you didn't, why you, girl? And let me just scoot on into the next topic of where the hell I've been at. What have I been doing? I've been working a whole lot, 40 hours a week to be exact. 8:30 to 5. Like, are we kidding me right now? That's a worker bee right now. That is like someone who is at work. I kind of miss having all this free time, but I think feeling needed and feeling like depended on in a work setting is really helping me like get my head in the game. So like when I actually am in like a space where I'm like creatively doing work and blah 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 blah, I feel like it's a lot more disciplined and less coming from like, oh, I just graduated from college, blah blah blah. So like I think now that I'm getting into the swing of things at my job, I'm like, okay, you know what, now I'm getting the hang of like being dependent on being needed, blah blah blah, like I just said. So yeah, work has been great, actually. Been doing really well. Reading, like I said, I've been reading All About Love, Radical Intimacy by Sophie K. Rosa, and then The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. I also bought the Alchemist because my friend Zach told me that I would really like the book, so I bought it because I was like, why the hell not? And I think that's it. I think that's all I'm reading right now. And then I'm still almost finished with Almond. I finished The Night Circus that I was mentioning in my summer recap. That book is so wonderful. Ooh, that's some good literature right there. Like, bring back books. Like the books are having actually a really big comeback. Like Book Talk and all these different things. Like I'm not on Book Talk, but I love the resurgence of like literature because I used to like despise books as a kid. I used to really only read Baby Mouse. Like I used to love reading Baby Mouse, but now I'm like reading like books with words on every page. And maybe I need to get back into reading manga too, like comics, because I like miss it a little bit. It's like making me kind of reminisce, and I need to get back into reading fiction because all these self-help books are a little bit dense, and I think fiction is something I need right now. But getting back into fashion, yeah, I've been caring more about what I wear. It's been very nice. I missed it. Journaling, yeah. Writing a lot. Taking notes while I watch videos, has been really helpful. Eating better, and taking care of my body. It's also helping with the toxic shame. So like, now that I'm like moving out of that, I feel like I'm taking more steps to like listen to my body. Eckhart Tolle was like talking a lot about how listening to your body instead of your thoughts is so much more helpful. And so because of that, I'm more in tune to what my body needs. So I'm eating better and taking more time to listen. And yeah, it's been really nice. Been nice. Hanging out with my friends. Yeah, doing a lot of that. Hanging out with my friends. Spending a lot of time alone too. Yeah. And giving a damn about myself for myself first. So that, then I could be an active participant in my community. So yeah, that's what I've been up to recently. Very glad to be back. Like genuinely so glad to be doing this podcast again. Like I'm like so happy about it. I missed it a lot. I genuinely did. I was just every day I used to think about it. I also have like the reminders every single day, like, oh, record an episode. Ever since like the last one came out, I had the reminders. So it's sad that I hadn't been able to because I just felt like I didn't have enough time. But time is made up. I can do it. And I'm going to do it. I am so happy to be back though, and so glad that I can share these things with you guys again. I hope you have a good new year. If you'd like, please let me know what your New Year's resolutions are. I'm so interested to see what other people's like priorities are this year, like what they're taking into account, yeah, very, very good to be back. Very good to be editing again. It's actually very wonderful, and I hope that you guys have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful day wherever you are. Choose love always. Bye.